Welcome to the Morse Code Podcast, where we talk with entrepreneurially minded creatives in music, film, and writing. My name's Corby, and I'm hoping these conversations inspire you to push deeper into your own work, whether you're a full-time professional or just starting out on your own creative odyssey. I'm really excited to share this next guest, a multi-hyphenate, if ever there was one. Josh Plasse is an actor, producer, and a soon-to-be author with the publication of his debut novel, Dust. Dust comes out February 4th, but it's available for pre-sale now. He's the son of a Navy SEAL, which is badass, and he's appeared in more than 50 episodes of network television, which is also badass. His most recent venture is the rodeo-themed feature film Ride. He wrote the script and produced the film, and he's in it too. Besides his success as a working actor, Josh has a ton of great advice about how to bring a multi-million-dollar film to life. I think any of you guys out there trying to make projects, films, really at any level, will get a ton out of this conversation, so listen up. Finally, we talk about one of my favorite subjects, writing. His book, Dust, took more than 8 years to write. I asked him about what inspired that story and how he stuck with it while spinning around in the whirlwind that is the film industry. Josh is, I'm going to say, one of the most disciplined people I've ever met, and in that way, he's a really inspiring guy. If you get something out of the Morse Code Podcast, do us a favor and rate us 5 stars on the old platform, or if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. And now here's my conversation with Josh Plasse. Josh Plasse.
What's up?
Dude, thank you so much for your time, man. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while now. Ever since we got together about a month and change ago to just hang out and talk, and I didn't really know what that was exactly going to entail, but not only did I learn a lot, but I was just inspired by your story and like what you've got going on.
Thank you.
And if I might recap your story to you at the beginning, just to kick this off, you can kind of correct me as where I get it wrong. But you've been in the acting game for 10 plus years, I want to say.
Yeah,
you got your first credits with iCarly, or first of note, maybe I could say
first
that.
Bigger credits. Yeah. That's
and then, so that's awesome. I mean, it's such a competitive industry, and any success is to be applauded. But
I know,
I'm not like what made me want to have you on the podcast is that you are as you have to be these days, a multi-hyphenate. And a consummate hustler, as evidenced in your producing features now. Yeah. Features plural.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Getting. I have news on that front. We'll get.
Oh, cool. Okay. Awesome. And then now you're about to be a published author.
Yes.
So no lack of ambition here. And I want to explore all of this. And I thought, but maybe we could just start with like your story and how you got inspired to act and what that looked like at the beginning, and and maybe even not to get too far ahead, but how the industry's changed. Since when you started.
Yeah, that's great. Wow.
But you came up in Virginia, I want to say?
Yeah. So born and raised in Virginia, Virginia Beach, Virginia specifically.
Yeah.
And I actually never studied theater or anything in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I should have. I wish I did. Wish I'd started much, much earlier. But alas, here we are. And I went to school, so my dad was a Navy SEAL, and I actually went to college for Homeland Security, and criminal justice, completely different spin. I was shooting, running, swimming, like totally different life, but shaved head, doing the whole thing. And I went there to Virginia Commonwealth University. I was much too serious in my life, and I was like, man, I'm too uptight. I kind of care what everybody thought about me.
Son of SEAL.
And oh god, every time I laugh, my rib now. The audience should know I've got a bad rib right now. But yeah, dude. So I show up there. And I'm too serious, and I got this buddy named Adam Valentine. I always shout this guy out because he's a total stud, thespian of all thespians. And I'm like, man, why are you always so nonchalant and so chill and happy? And he was like, buddy, you're not gonna like the answer. I was like, okay, what is it? He's like, it's the theater. And I was like, all right, I know, maybe, sure. He's like, why don't you come do a class? So I was like, okay. So this is first year of college. I go do a class with him. Fell in love with it. And the professor, a guy, Joseph Obermuller, was like, hey, you're terrible. You are absolutely awful.
It wasn't like the gates were flung wide.
The gates were not flung wide. But you seem to really want to be here, and there's a passion of sorts, because I did want to be there, because I wanted to genuinely get out of my shell. One thing led to another. He tells me, he was like, come do some privates with me. I'll give you a couple privates for free. So do a couple privates.
Really quickly, what was it? Was it stage acting? Was it
acting.
theater acting? And then, do you remember the first scene or what you saw?
Oh my gosh, I can't. I wish I did. Great question.
I'm just curious because I remember my first time seeing it, but mine's only like 5 years ago, so that's fine. My memory doesn't have to reach back as far. Yeah. Okay. So you had some privates with him.
Very, very long story short. Do the privates, and I'm loving it. And he's like, "Hey, you're getting better, but you still need to get out of your shell. Go to Sorority Row and play with the Dungeons and Dragon guys outside of the game store."
Those folks.
I know, dude. I was like, oh no. But I did it. And I went and I played and I let the embarrassment come. It actually wasn't that bad. Like, not even that many people passed us. But, I got out of my shell. I start growing and I get to the final callback of a Pizza Hut commercial. Yeah, it's cool. Pretty funny. I had no talent at all, but by just being myself, which is a good thing because you don't really understand what you don't know yet, if that makes sense. I get all the way to the end, and then the director, it's like me and a couple guys. It's like a $45,000 SAG commercial, and I'm 18. So he's like, hey, why don't you try it this way? He gives me some directorial adjustments, and I was like, what? Couldn't take adjustments, don't get the commercial, but I caught the bug. And so I move out to Los Angeles, meet a couple acting coaches, get out in college out there, do it all, and start chasing dreams, man. And that was really how it all began.
Did you get an agent early on, or what?
I did.
Yeah,
I did. Well, manager, more specifically.
A manager.
Yeah. So I went to a guy named Patrick Day's class. He runs the Young Actor Studio, still runs today. Shout out to Patrick. He's the man. Go there. I'm in actually 3 acting classes. I just hit the ground running because I quickly identified that if everyone else is running 100 miles an hour and I'm running 100 miles an hour, that's not enough because I'm way behind. And all these people have been acting since they were kids. So I needed to run 200 miles an hour.
Nice. So you applied a SEAL mentality to acting career.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Which I think you have to do. That / I had been a competitive athlete for a long time. So just exactly, you're exactly right. Applying that mindset to the arts, which a lot of people don't do. There's many artists who are vastly more talented than myself, and I'll probably never be as talented as them. But again, if they don't have the work ethic or the understanding of business to get to the point they need to be.
Man, we were just talking about this during the setup of just like there's so many things, especially nowadays. It feels like all industries are in free fall. All of the former gatekeepers and the institutions are crumbling before our very eyes, which is great in some ways, creates a lot of opportunity. But in another way, it's just like every man for himself. It's like it's in TikTok culture. The point is, there's so much you can't control, but the things that you can control, you just absolutely have to knock out of the park. And one of the things that I'm doing over here, I feel just like you. I'm not. I don't think I'm the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I will work my ass off and always have. And and also, you can be consistent. You can show up. You don't have to let your emotions determine how much you apply yourself. These sorts of things. It's not so easy with creative types because you are sort of emotion forward and you're engaged with your emotions, and it's very difficult to be engaged without being overpowered.
Yes. True.
So
very true.
I interrupted, but so you kind of hit the ground running, and then what was like an early first big break?
First big break was actually like 5 weeks in. I get there, I'm terrible, but I'm in 3 different classes, and Patrick Day was like, "Hey, I'll introduce you to this manager." I was like, "Cool." He's like, "But I don't think you're ready, so that's on you." I was like, let's do it. So we do it. I go, I put a scene up for him. I think it was from The Outsiders or something. Put the scene up. He comes in and he responds to the email inquiry. He's like, "Yeah, I love you, but you're not ready. Circle back in a couple of years." So I was like, "No." So I emailed him back and was like, "Let me redo it on tape and send it to you on tape." So we did, and I just went and did it with my coach and did freaking 20 takes or something. Send it back to him, and he was like, "All right, I respect the hustle, I respect the notes, like, let's go." So he signed me. This was like 3 weeks in, maybe. He signed me and he got me on Criminal Minds. That was the first one. He got me. It was a co-star. It was like 3 lines and then I get murdered.
Amazing. I was like, people go 8 years and don't get a co-star on a show. So
very true, man. No, I appreciate that.
Awesome. That's auspicious.
It's true. Yes. Yeah. Well said. For sure. And that gave me the bug in a big way. So did that. I think I had a bit of a dry spell after that. I booked a couple of movies, smaller parts. I booked a really cool movie called There's No Such Thing as Vampires. And I like really loved the director, loved the team. They kind of mentored me. I learned a lot about production on that set because it was out in Joshua Tree for like 27 days. No one, but yeah, dude, it was crazy. So did that. And then the ball kind of rolled, man. After that, he got me an agent. I ended up signing it with Buckwald a little bit later. And I did like Grey's Anatomy, American Horror Story, a bunch of cool little TV shows. You ever see Feud, Betty and Joan? It's a Ryan Murphy show on FX. I didn't. Yeah, shows like that. They're just like random. But did that, did a bunch of things and just started slowly getting credits. And then, yeah, man, like you said earlier, iCarly happened, a bunch of other fun stuff happened. And I just started learning. And, just like right now, looking around the studio, how you guys are brilliantly doing this and crafting it. Whenever I would be on set, it's show business. And this is a Margot Robbie quote that I'm stealing, but business is twice as long as show. And as such, it should be twice as important. And I'm like, okay, every time I'm there, why don't I just like look around? Like, what are we shooting on? Where are the lights? What's happening? How's the director approaching set? This, that, or the other. And so I started falling in love with that aspect of it as well, kind of picking brains on the side without being annoying. You can never be intrusive on set, but timing it correctly. And I say that to say, I kind of learned a little bit about producing. So I rose some money and I did a short film. Did I ever tell you about this?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, dude, it's out there now. It's called Calico Queens. Don't watch it. But no, you can watch it.
Where is it? I mean, if one were to,
you could go on YouTube.
Right there.
I think it's available on YouTube still. We did actually sell it, which was crazy because usually you don't.
How did you sell this for?
We lost so much money on this short film, dude. But yeah, but it's a short film. It's not meant to make money. It was basically a proof of concept for a feature. There are actually places out there now, quite a lot of them. If you have shorts, let me know. We can talk. Who just acquire short films. So like, it's not a lot, dude. We're talking like $600 to $3,000 at best.
Yeah.
But at least you get to offset a little bit of that.
Yeah, for sure.
And if it's really good, you never know because other buyers will come to them, and they're a weird little. Like, did you hear about was it Quibi?
Quibi, yeah.
So like, there are smaller versions of that now, of these companies that are trying to build just huge libraries of shorts just for like aspiring artists. And there was one group I heard of that was selling them to a coalition of colleges for art students. I was like, how cool is that? Huh. Yeah, there's so many little things we have no idea are happening behind closed doors in the industry. You're just like, where is this at?
That's the upside of the disintegration of the traditional model. I mean,
Isn't that true?
Can I ask what that budget was for that early project?
Yes, you can, because that is a hilarious question. We raised $75,000 for that.
Wow. And how long was what was the runtime for it?
17 minutes.
Yeah.
But it was a Western on the Paramount Ranch before it burned down. And I was young at the time. I was very young. And the good thing is we did most of it through a Kickstarter and two financiers who were in this for the right reasons. They were in it for the art. We have since partnered with them in our companies now.
Oh, amazing.
They've stuck with us. Like, we did everything right. Don't get me wrong. I poo-poo myself on it because you shouldn't spend that much money on a short film. But we got Danny Trejo in it. It was super fun. Rafael Sabarge, who's a super respected actor. He's fantastic. The film wasn't bad. The film was fine. But again, it's like, why are you putting all that into a short?
To learn, and because you didn't know any better.
Exactly.
And it's not, it's not to say that obviously you want to make money in the game, but there's other rewards. Like, for instance, finding your future partners. That was an early experiment for both parties.
So
do
true.
we like each other? Are we compatible?
Yes.
Do we want to keep doing this together? And so that's always, I try to maintain that sort of outlook in times when perhaps the money wasn't quite as quick in coming as I might have hoped. There are other things.
Yes, that's a great outlook, man. It's true.
So anyway, okay, so you produced a film, and did you enjoy producing?
I did. Yeah. I enjoyed it for sure.
So maybe we could talk about producing, because a lot of people, this is kind of a little bit more of a general audience than a strictly movie specific, but producing means a lot of things.
Yes.
It can.
Yes.
So how would you articulate the roles of the producer?
Oh, that's good. That's good. So I guess since we're cross industry here, I won't be as helpful, but for film and entertainment in specific, I do think I can offer a lot. Obviously there's creative producing and there's fiscal producing. There's all types of producing. Line producing, maybe UPM, maybe whatever. But capital P, I am producing this project. If someone comes to me and they want to produce on one of these next things on our slate, it's like, okay, what is the experience? Can you bring equity? Like, do you have people that you can come on and bring? Because that is a major part of it. Are you equipped? Have you done this before? Like, for me, it's very simple to answer the question, like, what is producing? You need to be creative. You need to be fiscally sound in terms of like understanding business, and you need to be really, really, what's kind of the best way to articulate this? Savvy with schedules. savvy as a puzzle maker. Because in the entertainment industry, you might be given some really remedial task, but it's actually extremely important. Like I was on a film once that basically combined. They had a UPM, an LP, for anyone who doesn't know, a line producer, unit production management. They basically combined that with 2 producers into 1 person. And this guy was doing everything. Like he was doing everything. He was making the schedule. He budgeted the film. It's like, why is he budgeting the film too? Like he did everything. So if that starts to answer the question a little bit, I think you just have to be extremely well-rounded and be creative, but also understand that it's a business and be really good with the X's and the O's.
Yeah, I think that's really well put. And you're also, in charge to some extent. You're kind of in charge
to some extent.
My wife is a born producer. I think that she's willing to embrace that. She's listening right now, I bet. And she's like, I'm not. But we joke about it. But there's often like kind of an adversarial relationship built into production and creative. Yeah. Because creative, a director wants to realize his vision, and he or she will use all the time available, plus maybe a little bit more if you can get away with it. And the same with the budget. And the producer is got to put got to rein that in and like make a creative live on planet Earth, which a creative does not want to do. And I know this I've produced some things, and I also done the creative side of some things, and it's painful all the way around. It is. But the director ends up getting his name in lights, and the producer's just, maybe a card, maybe not, whatever.
Single card or locked in with the four
But if you enjoy bringing something to life, then maybe, you have what it takes to be a producer, maybe.
I agree. Yeah. And also, I think another thing from a production standpoint, and again, I'm also still learning. I've only produced 3 films now. We're going on our 4th. But guys at the highest level, I mean, I'm getting mentored by a guy who's produced all kinds of films, The Witch, and films that have gone on to gross insane money. And when I watch the way that he operates and conducts business is mind-blowing. His understanding of like leveraging finance against certain deals and against other points, like, it's really hard. Once you're talking about like real filmmaking and multi-million-dollar pictures, you're going to have all these foreign deals that need to be in place, equity deals, tax incentives, and you start talking about everything in the order of operations in which those are raised. You have to be a business savant in a lot of ways. You don't have to be a business savant, but at that level you do. And so I'm inspired by guys like that, where I watch, to your point, yes, you're kind of just credited in the back, but really they made it happen. A producer, quite literally, and this is why people forget this word, produces the movie. They produce it. Everyone's like, oh, that's like a task-oriented job. It's like, no, they literally brought this thing. They made this thing alive. They produced it, procured the funds, procured whatever. And so for me, they're involved from the ground up, but they probably developed the project. They may have been involved for the developmental funds. They may have been involved by just finding the script, as you said earlier, bringing that director. The producer may very well bring the script to the director and vice versa. So like, it's just, I don't know, man, it's fascinating. It's fun.
Yeah, it's really, it's fascinating. It's really if you're not acquainted with the filmmaking world, that is one of the most attractive to me parts of it, because it is so complicated and so unwieldy and so non-obedient to standardized procedure. Every picture is different because there's so many personalities involved. There's never the same personalities involved in any 2 projects, and so that requires a different approach. That's so interesting, thinking about your buddy and like how complicated that must be in a big budget international picture.
Dude, it's crazy.
The experience that you have to have, and that you just have to have. You don't just show up and know how to do that.
No. Oh, there's so much, and it gets so much more complex than that. You start dealing with K1s for the business structure, Section 181 with the IRS, like we were talking about that yesterday, fiscal sponsorships, leveraging debt, writing off investments. Some guys want to come in, some investors will come in at the last minute of the year just to offset their income, just so they can take a write-off, because if you're fiscally sponsored by the 501c, like I was telling you, you can utilize their federal tax identification number, and then the investor can write all that off. If he's coming into a documentary, you can write all that off, right? So it's like understanding even the time frame of things. With this picture I was telling you about, it's, again, we elected Section 181, which I haven't even heard about until last year. I'm like, where has this been my whole life? It's this incredible thing that I'd never heard of. So there's just these little secrets, pockets of secrets that people don't know that help put together the whole deal. In the case of this film we're going to get in soon, half of the money is pre-secured from tax incentives and foreign deals that are already in place just based on the named talent. So then they're raising the rest of that from equity, which is basically, it's not safe equity, but it's pretty safe at that point, if it makes sense. So you have to understand how to leverage gap financing. There's a bunch of kind of new companies like Bondit, Buffalo 8, all these companies that will just put in finance, and they're doing like 100 pictures a year now. So I don't want to ramble too much, but there's just so many ways to slice the cake that you just have to be, as you said, really savvy. And the traditional structure, the Hollywood model as it was, is just no longer, especially in independent filmmaking. Obviously, I'm not a Warner Brothers executive. I don't know. I don't know how they're structuring their deals, but in the indie world and things in the 1 to 5 million space, like, you just got to be an absolute savage.
Yeah, and this is where I feel like your knowledge is really helpful to some of the folks that might be listening to this, because there's a lot of indie filmmaking going on in Nashville and in Southeast. Yeah. And this is like a more advanced answer to the question of like, how do you bring a picture to life? Like at the very beginning, you're just like out there with your friends and your little 4-page script and just shooting it. But how do you grow from that? And how do you, it's actually creative. Yeah. The thinking about it, the financial coming up with the wherewithal to bring a picture to life and like solving all of these problems.
100%.
So that really does belie what am I trying to say? You're not just a pretty face there, Josh Plasse. And it's just interesting because so many actors just want to show up and get the part and be the star and go home. Yep. And there's a lot to be said for that. Every time I'm cast in something, I'm just like, I have the luckiest job on this set, and it's there's nothing but fun, it's really. True. Yeah. Sometimes if the conditions are yucky, but even that's just kind of an adventure. Yeah. At the end of the day, you just go home and you're done, and your check comes at, and that's it. Your residuals come later. Easy. It's so easy. By comparison, in a way, it's not easy to act. I'm not trying to say that. I know what you're saying. Yeah. But as soon as the director yells cut, your job's done. Yeah. And all of these other jobs are require so much more effort and work before, during, and after a picture. Yep. And it's not to say that that's for everybody, but for a certain kind of person that wants to be like bring movies to life, their own ideas in particular. That's an excellent way forward. Which is maybe a good segue to some of your early experiences as creative / producer, or your more recent ones, I want to say. And because I know you from the film that you produced, and I don't want to say you appeared in. Yeah. You didn't star in it, but you were Ride? One of the characters. Yeah, Ride. Yeah. And so maybe you could talk about the journey of Ride, because that's a great little microcosm of how it can happen.
So true. Yeah, definitely. And it's a funny story on that one. And it actually, you're right. It is perfect for everything we're talking about. One of my writing partners and I, Jake, actually wrote that as a pilot. Mm-hmm. I think it was like a 49-page pilot. And it started out, it wasn't even a rodeo film. Ride is a rodeo film for the audience. It wasn't at first a rodeo film. It was like literally imagine Friday Night Lights, but a little darker, right? And we had written this pilot, thought it was quite good, but as you know, it's much harder to sell a pilot, especially in the indie world. And if you can't,
it's too soon.
We found this woman who ran a company out of Atlanta, and she actually loved the script. And she was like, hey, I'd like to option this script from you guys. We had a traditional option agreement. And she was like, but the weird sort of caveat to her company, again, going back to all these weird random business models out there. It's like, if you're truly an indie filmmaker and you're just doing anything you can to make it happen, I love it. I love the scrap heart. She had come up with a model that I actually think was rather bright. I don't know if it worked for her or not, because COVID kind of destroyed her entire business model. But she was acquiring pilots, filming them, and then paying a little extra on top of the option agreement to writers to write an additional 30 pages and conclude that pilot as a TV movie. Huh. So crazy. So she would option, I'm making this number up, but let's say 10 pieces, right? And one of those 10 pilots is probably going to go, if they're all pretty good. Like one of those is going to go, maybe two. Mm-hmm. And then the ones that don't, she had just paid a little extra for those additional 30 pages, and she had some studio space there in Georgia. I think she was just outside of Atlanta. And they would shoot the additional 30 pages and just cut it into a crappy TV movie. But there you go. You can sell it. You're making something back at least, you know? And so for her, it was worth it. If they shot the whole pilot and it didn't go as they wanted it to, they'd take it back into the bay, lose about a half year, whatever, but they'd make the rest of the piece.
So you didn't know, it sounds like maybe you're not in contact with her presently. So you don't know how effective
Correct.
actually the
I don't know
model
how
worked
effective
out.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't exactly. And I don't want to speak positively or illy because I have no idea.
So she, you got involved with her with
Yes.
this pilot ride in that circumstance. So she optioned it.
Correct. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like,
So that
you're
kind
one
of
step.
threw everything sideways.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Destroyed it. And she I think she had 18 months on her option, and 18 months went by. She relinquished the rights. We took it back. But Jake and I were like, hey, so that's kind of where
She hadn't filmed anything.
Yeah,
because of COVID.
Exactly. And that's where the interesting, but we had written those 33 pages. So we had the movie now. And we were like, this doesn't feel like a bad TV movie. This feels like pretty good, right? We were like, I think so. And we had changed it with some of their notes, and it became slowly more of the bull riding thing over the course of the development. And then ultimately, we just kind of fell in love with what we had. And we were like, let's just go all in on this. And he had a couple of business partners. I have 2 guys in my company. We knew we could raise just enough to make something, just something great. So we took it seriously. Once we had the script, we rose that initial funding. It was a lot more than development funding, but a decent amount. And then we drafted PPM, got the financial decks account.
What's PPMs?
Product placement memorandum. So it's like if you're going to actually raise really serious funds, it has to come through the SEC, Security Exchange Commission. So at a higher level, if you're talking like someone's coming in at $250,000 or more, $250,000 or more, usually they have to be what's called an accredited investor, and they'll have to sign these questionnaires approving their income, yada yada yada. And so you actually do technically in many states have to get the okay from the SEC, or at least show that your state follows these laws as an investor, right? So like it's our obligation as producers to share this PPM with a given investor, and technically by law, that investor, if he doesn't receive that, could be like, hey, I was never shown my rights, shown whatever, right? So the lawyer does all that. I don't do that. Sure. I don't do that. But we paid him to do that, made the docs, and then Jake and I went out and rose the funds.
So you had in place guys on your team that were sort of like ready to go on something.
Yes.
So that's huge. And that that only came with positive past experiences between you. There you go. I mean, that's great.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you recap for me, because you were telling me this at the coffee shop, and I found it fascinating.
Yeah.
When you were putting together the package to give to investors, that you were acquiring name talent.
Yes.
And there is, I don't even know what that document is or but there's like, everybody's got a little number next to them that can be counted.
Breakage.
Yes. The breakage?
Breakage.
Yeah. Breakage is what you call that. So describe what breakage is for the uninitiated.
So I'm sure there's different terminology for everyone, but so to kick this a little bit forward, we had a little bit of money, which was just to make it very clear for everyone, was considered private equity, right? So from our investors through our 2 companies. And at that point, we were like, okay, we have enough to, as I said, make our legal documents, formulate the company, all the boring stuff, and go out to additional investors. So we rose just enough to have enough money in the bank to go and make offers, right? And then once we made our offers, because the major agencies, CAA, WME, UTA, where any real talent is going to be in that top tier, if you're a new company, they're probably going to want proof of funds. So like I've spoken to a lot of agents who'll be like, who is this? Who the heck is this guy? Who is this company? You want to cast my actor? He's got 10 things. Show us the funds. Because there's so many fakes out there now that it's like people will try to secure a name, and this isn't fake. That's a mean thing to say. But people will often try to secure the name to secure the money. So they'll contact the agent. They'll be like, hey, we're shooting we're shooting at this date. We'd love to make an offer to Vince Vaughn or someone. It's like, you're never going to get Vince Vaughn. What are you talking about? Your movie's $500,000. His quote is probably more than that. But they'll send that to the agents, and they'll it might be a great script, might be a good whatever. And then back in the day, there was just no real way to like fact check that. Verify, exactly. So nowadays, often if you're a smaller company, and this has happened to me twice, they're like, show us the funds. Show us proof funds. And we had the foresight to see that, which is why we rose that private equity first, so that when we went to the agencies, we could say, hey, great, show you the funds, here it is. If this guy does the film and he likes the film, we'll escrow the money right now. And by the way, that's another helpful tip as a producer. If you escrow funds into a separate account, the Screen Actors Guild cannot take that money to be held. And that's a massive thing, like unbelievably massive, that people don't understand. Raise the money first if you can. Because think about it this way, I think it's up to 40% now in some cases, 30 in others. If you and I are 2 actors in a movie and you're getting paid $200,000 and I'm getting paid $200,000, completely fictitious numbers, right?
That's a little low for my usual fee, but continue.
Little under the quote, but that's what we're getting paid. One day of work. And the producers go, okay, great. We have to submit this stuff to SAG. We're both in the union. Here you go. SAG has a holding because they have to get your, they're going to have to do your health. They're going to do all the blah, 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 right? I don't need to bore the audience with that. But they will literally set aside a SAG residual fund, a SAG this fund, a SAG that fund, right? And that number can be as high as 30% and even 40 in some cases for the total talent budget. So if we're $400,000 together and they're taking 30% of that to hold for the end of the film as a residual set aside, just to prove it.
It's a huge chunk of money for your production budget.
Where does that come from? Yeah. On these indie films, it's crushing indie films. And I'm in SAG. Come on, guys. like I love it as an actor, but I hate it as a producer.
But that's been the case since the beginning of time?
Yes, but I think those, and someone would fact check me here, I'm fairly positive those numbers are rising. Like, I don't think it's always been 30%. And I think in today's model, let's say it had been 20 or 25, it's just harder and harder when the budget is smaller and smaller and there's no one to back that money. Also, in the other cases, I don't think it would ever be necessary because it's Warner Brothers or Universal. So the union's going to be like, show us proof of funds. It's like, please, we've met, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, like they're not going to ask them for proof of funds, Yeah. So with an indie house, it's a lot different. So anyway, circling back to the breakage thing, it's all relevant here. We rose the money first so that we could escrow the funds to A, prove to the major talent houses that the funds are real, and they could then lock the scheduling for their client. And then B, to also prove for SAG, hey, this person is getting paid. Here's the escrow account. We don't need to set aside any more money. It's proof right here, which is massive. So that's how we did it. So then once we had those names, we went to a distributor for the film. The distributor offered us a small number to pre-buy the film, which is like a hedge bet for them. So for us, it's really nice and it's really bad. It's bad in the sense that you can't go sell your movie at a big festival when it's done because it's already pre-bought, right? But it's great for us.
It's a guarantee though.
Exactly.
Low guarantee in exchange for a little security.
Exactly. So you get it. Yep. And then the breakage was what the money that they would give us based on those actors.
And why did you decide to do that to pre-sale rather than roll your dice? You just wanted to have like a
great question,
more of a sure thing.
Yeah, great question. We are still early on, and we still are very early on. But at that point, it was just better for us, for the financiers, to ensure they would have a pretty successful model. Because like at worst, the way it was set up, they wouldn't lose that much if it was a catastrophe. If the film made nothing, they would still be okay.
So you haven't shot one thing. At this point, this is all the stuff that you set up in advance of the film, which is really insane. I think this is going to be exciting to a lot of people listening. Good. It's just like sound. It's wise.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, sir. No. Again, everything I'm saying here, I'm probably, I've learned from other people, and they would articulate it much better than I. But
you're doing pretty good. So with the breakage thing, you would cast an actor, you get a name. They have on the breakage sheet, there's a number attached to their name that you can bring to investors and be like, this guy is usually, he's worth this much money.
Literally. Yeah, literally. There's no like imaginary floating sheet per se.
Yes.
But it's all based on their foreign sales values in a lot of cases. So like you can attach an actor, like Jason Statham is a perfect example of this. He's super famous, great, but Jason Statham overseas, because of Fast and the Furious and all these other cool things he's done, or whatever movie he's been in, everything, what was the Transporter, all these things where he's just kicking butt. The shark movies, Mega, the big one, the new with Rainn Wilson. Did you guys see this?
No.
Okay, whatever. He's in those too. These are mega blockbusters.
Yeah, he's a big star.
Huge star.
Yeah.
But exactly. But again, a huge star like him compared to someone who's just a huge star in the States, he's going to have way more value overseas. So a distributor might be like, hey, actually, instead of just buying North American rights, this movie has Jason Statham. Let's offer these guys way more money and take the whole world. And then they can take a pretty safe guess at what his value is over there. So there's literally a breakage number. Like when our distributor bought Ride, they had a flat fee for that, what their number was. And then contingent upon these other 3 people we attached, they all had a number on them as well. And that's how it worked.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you got this all set up. This is probably 2021. Guessing 22.
Yeah. Wow. No, you're right. 2021. Yep. We shot in 2022. Wow. Woo.
And you shot here in Nashville?
Yeah, we
mostly?
did. Yeah, a whole thing in Nashville.
The whole thing in Nashville. And why did you do that?
Great question. We were a little tired of LA in a lot of ways. It's impossible to get the tax break in LA. It's just crazy.
But there's no tax break. There's no rebate in Tennessee, right?
There is. Oh yeah, very good one. 20% bass. Yeah, totally. So and growing quickly. Now I've heard some rumors that it's not going to continue to grow as quickly for whatever reasons, but yeah, we totally got it. Bob Rains, the commission, they're all amazing, super great to work with. 20% bass, and I want to say you can even get up another 5%. There's certain stipulations with a lot of rebates where it's like if you shoot in an area that they consider underprivileged in X, Y, and Z manner, you'll get 5% more. If you shoot this percentage of what's on the script in this area, you'll get more, right? If you utilize 70% local crew, we'll bump you up by 5%. There's all these like weird stipulations, and that differs state to state to state. But Tennessee has 20% base, and because of the industry that's already here and existing from music and CMAs and everything, we were like, oh great, well there's already fire crew, and that turned out to be totally true. Like the crews here were amazing, people were great, and there's a thirst in this city, at least I feel. For this is just me personally speaking, I have no logic to back this, but it feels like a lot of people here want to do features. They want to get and like do bigger budgeted things as opposed to just the 12-minute music videos that they're used to doing. Even if
I think
those
that
are
your
huge.
assessment is accurate.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, music videos are the lifeblood of the film industry here still,
for sure.
But everybody wants to do narrative and features.
Agreed.
I mean, actors want to do it's and. We're not jaded here, we're like, it's exciting. It's like a young town. I think this place is a great place to live for whatever's happening next in film.
Same.
So,
completely agree.
So you shot it in 2021.
Yeah, 2021.
Positive experience?
Unbelievably. My best of any film ever. And I'm not making that up. I'm still here. Proof is in the pudding. Also, there's no income tax in Tennessee. You set up your LLC here, there's no income tax. It's unbelievable. This place is like, it's just crazy. We started looking at the dots and comparing the cost of crew, comparing and the, as we just said, the attitude of that crew, who's going to be there, the cost of, everything has a cost. You got to rent these cameras, you have to rent these lights, everything around us costs money. You have to rent locations. Who's going to do that? You got a permit. Dude, when we lined it up with Tennessee beside California, we were like, what?
There's no comparison.
What are we doing? Like,
yeah.
Duh. Also, the landscape is much better. It's a rodeo film, so it's like it's harder unless you go to NorCal. And then I was actually already planning on moving here. My wife got a job here. She works for marketing with Nissan, and she got a great job here. So I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna be there anyways. We're talking about doing this film here. One of my business partners had just moved to Nashville as well. It's like this is a no-brainer. So. Yeah,
awesome. And so you were telling me, so you shot Ride, and then what was the strategy with the release? There was a small theatrical release.
Yep.
And as I remember, really positive results. So maybe you could describe that.
Yeah, totally. So unfortunately for us, well, fortunately and unfortunately, going back to what I said, once you pre-sell that movie, it's literally the distributor's IP. They can do whatever they want with it. So they elect how they would like to do the rollout, which is good and bad. And we had a small theatrical run, like you said, which was great because that helps you do all kinds of things. If you do a theatrical run, it just helps you in a number of ways. We didn't make a ton of money in the theatrical run, but we actually did better than we thought we would do. And I want to say we ran at like 50 to 65 theaters or something, like nothing crazy, right?
It's called, this is such a noob question, but it's P&E.
Print advertisement, P&A.
P&A. And so like how did you get people to come to the theater? I mean,
that's all on them.
That's the distributor. That's their deal.
Yes, but great question. So with these pre-sales, that is their deal, but they have to recoup that plus 20 in that case. So if they spend, let's say they purchase your movie for $500,000, right? So okay, great. That money is real. That is on a piece of paper that says they will do that. So now I can, and I'll answer your question at the end of this, I can take that to the bank and I can say, hey, we have $500,000 guaranteed upon completion of the film. Will you finance this at a 5 to 10% loan, right? And the bank will say, yes, film bank, Citibank is a great film bank. Great, we'll do that. So now, boom, I have my money to go shoot my $500,000, right? And then I've got my private equity we talked about earlier. So now you add those together, you get the tax rebate, you're making a movie. Here's the catch. To your point, it's a great point. You don't have any P&A raised. So it's now at the leisure of whatever the distributor wants to do. So that $500,000 they gave you, they are in first position every time, meaning they have to recoup all of that plus a 30% distribution fee in many cases, which is not a small number. Then everything they spend on P&A, as you just said, which could be
after that
plus a P&A charge.
Naturally.
Then the private investors start making their money back, and the movie starts. So, dude, you've got to hit a home run.
And you don't have any control over how much they spend on P&A. No. So, in some sense, it's like you want them to spend a good enough, but you want it to be effectively spent. But you have no idea how.
Very well
control over that.
Very well said. So, they do have to provide like financial statements and stuff, but yes, you are correct. And I have heard I don't think we did this on ours. I was not the senior producer on this. I was the third, but I'd have to ask our senior if he set this up. But I have heard people will do what's called a mini maxi in that, where when you're striking the agreement with them, you can do a mini maxi on P&A, which would basically say, hey, in the agreement, you will spend no less, the mini, than $100,000, and you agree as the distributor to spend no more than $400,000. Because at 400, we don't feel very comfortable that our investors will make this money back. Less than 100, you haven't done anything to market the movie.
It's so interesting because for every contingency, there's a way through this. You can think of what might happen, and that's to me fun. I don't know if I have the skills to properly address that, but I understand the spirit of the game.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
I mean, it's for all parties, and you're trying to protect yourself. You're also trying to give enough leverage to them or leeway to them to have some room to do what they say they're going to do.
100%.
All of those things.
Yeah.
So you had a happy outcome.
Yes.
With this, and maybe you could share that.
Yeah. Thanks,
in terms of the distribution and where it ultimately landed. And is available.
Yeah. Thank you, man. So I guess the quickest version of that is we were happy. Oh, we loved our distributor, by the way. I'm making the distributor out to be a bad guy. We loved our distributor. They were fantastic. Very happy with how that worked out. We will and we'll work with them again. And they rolled it out, as we said, to a limited theatrical release, followed by a VOD run, video on demand for anyone who's not familiar. And that's actually really effective these days. People don't realize, but a lot of folks order video on demand. You can go $6.99, $12.99, whatever you want to do for your buy structure or your rental structure. We did really good on that.
So and that's available on Amazon and a bunch of different places.
Yeah, exactly. Almost like VOD in general is basically anywhere you can rent movies. So we were great question. We were on Apple for that. We were on iTunes. We were on demand. We were on Amazon. Wherever you can rent movies that they have the deal in place, they'll grab it for that.
How do people find out that it's available?
That's the
part
P&A.
of the P&A.
Yeah, great question. That's part of the P&A. Yeah. And so, great question. And I'm actually really glad you asked me that. P&A. However, nowadays, going back, you got to be a savage. Me and my business partner Jake, he directed the film. He did a lot more than I did. This is his baby. But I think he went to 16 rodeos. I went to at least 5. And we literally went to these rodeos. We're going to one December 5th, the biggest rodeo in Las Vegas. It's going to be huge. You go to these things, strike a deal with them because it's a rodeo film. And we've got Forrie Smith in it, who's like a Yellowstone legend. So all the rodeo community loves him. We go in there, strike a deal with whatever we want to do with them. They play the trailer. We get out. They let Jay get on a horse, give a quick speech, and we freaking sign posters, shake hands, and kiss babies. It's like, right, on demand now. Go check it out. Yeah. And to just literally grassroots promote the film. And so you've got your distributor running the P&A. We're doing this. We all have decent, I have a small social media following, but we all have something, 20, 30, 40 here, and those numbers start adding up. And then, Forrie's got 1 million. A bunch of the other cast has really high socials. So it just kind of starts circulating, I guess.
And does that go into the contract when you sign the talent that they'll be available for X? Is it stipulated by time?
Great question. That differs in every scenario. Yeah. And it depends on the person. Like Forrie, in a good way, and it's just who he is. You're not going to get that guy to sign anything. I'm not doing your social media posts or whatever. Yeah. But he's also an awesome dude, so he just did. Yeah. I don't think if
so. There's some of that you kind of just have to let that slide and trust, and it's cool. It's still a people game at the end of the day.
Yeah, totally, man, totally.
That's also a testament to when you're thinking about the film that you might want to make, to think about a niche audience and maybe build that into the idea at the beginning, who would this appeal to? This is nothing really new to say, but that's a really great and specific example of a existing and fairly large community / audience that would be interested in the subject matter that your film is exploring. So 100%. Then that translates into interest interest translates into dollars.
$90.
And yeah, that's really cool. And I mean, I can imagine
yeah.
that's very effective to go to the largest rodeo in the country and just play the trailer, Jaws film.
Literally.
You know?
And if you bring the stars there and they shake hands and do meet and greets, dude, it's like
slam dunk.
It's and
or
people are starting to see
equivalent
that.
of slam dunk.
Yeah, rodeo equivalent of slam dunk. And no, totally. And great point. I mean, you're kind of putting the words in my mouth here in a good way. That is exactly right. Everyone's like, well, who's your target audience? You know, always followed by this big like marketing, facade of like they know everything. But truly, like, get deeper. How literally tell me if you're an independent filmmaker and you're making something anything over 1 million, or excuse me, under 1 million, you will not have money for P&A. Period. Or else your movie's gonna suck. Or it's just going to be, again, that's maybe not fair. There's some extraordinary filmmakers out there, but I don't say that in a bad way. You can make a great film for under $1 million. Both of those movies were under $1 million, but you're not going to have money for P&A. So to that point, if you're going to do something in that sub 1 million, kind of ULB, $700,000 film
ultra
area,
low budget is what that means.
ultra low budget is ULB. Yep. Then be, to your point, which you've wisely said, is like, be prepared to answer the target audience question from a multitude of levels, not just like, I'm selling this to this is for the church, this is a baseball movie, this is a movie about wildlife conservation. Okay, have a list of 100 wildlife conservations then, and know all of the social media influencers in that space.
So good.
You have to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's the homework you have to do. This next film we're doing is veterans, about veterans. I mean, like I said, obviously my dad being a veteran is different, and I've done things in that space, but that is a clear-cut target demographic that's bigger than just saying, well, it's males 18 to 25.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh god,
Rich males. Hurt yourself.
I know, gosh, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. So you've already nailed it. Yeah. If it's a podcast movie. How many podcasts? Let's go talk to these guys.
Everybody's got a podcast. There's probably 6 on the street.
Not as good as this one, though.
Okay, well, this is fascinating and interesting and helpful information, I feel like, for filmmakers, and also just like people who kind of want to understand how the sausage is made. But let's shift gears a little bit, because you're a creative person at the end of the day, and some of that finds its expression in acting, but some of it finds it in writing. And I'd love to talk about the book if you're game.
Yeah, so please. Thank you.
You have a book that's coming out in early first quarter of 2025?
Yes, great. February 4th.
February 4th, 2025, and it is called?
Dust.
It's called Dust.
Here it is. It just went to print last week, so I don't have a hard copy yet.
It's awesome. We'll figure all that out in post. It's great. We'll do some movie magic here.
I love it.
But describe what the book's about.
Yeah. Thank you, man. So I like to pitch it as a lighter Game of Thrones. It's not quite as dark. People are still getting tortured. You just might not read about every fiber of their fingernail that's getting pulled off.
There's a little left to the imagination. Okay.
Exactly. A little bit left to the imagination. But yeah, man, it's I'm really into it. It's basically I'll also let me send you the map too, so I can kind of put that up. The map is I'm so proud of this map. We had a cartographer in France who's won like 3 years in a row for the World Cartography Award. She's unbelievable. Shout out to Misty B.
Misty B.
That's her name.
Well, there's such a thing as a cartography award, and this award goes to like imagined cartography.
Literally, imagine the best map. You can do. Good question. You can do fiction and nonfiction. So you can do
two categories.
Two categories. Dude, she's so good.
Cool.
I saw this map from her, and I was like,
did she read the book and then made the map?
Yeah. They read it.
Did you kind of have a picture, like a crude picture that you sent her? That's like, make it this, but better.
But way better. It was embarrassing, dude. And I've been working on the book forever. So I had a sketch on a piece of literal paper that was just like, wet mud on it. I was like, hey, here's this. What can you do from this? She's like, we're going to scrap that. But basically, long story short, yes, like I said, Game of Thrones in theory. The story is obviously, again, it follows 3 families, how's the best way to put this? It follows 3 characters. I won't get into all the families yet. It follows 3 characters who are brother, and sister, and their parents have been murdered. So essentially, just like Game of Thrones, it's 3 siblings vying for the throne at the end of the day. And then the question becomes, who murdered them? How did it happen? And it's called Dust because the source of magic from the film is through dust that's found from comets that are left over that came down and created my version of Pangea. So there was this great legend has it. There's this great comet storm that came down, separated the continental fragments, and then if you're lucky enough enough to come across any of these comets, there are dust in there. If you have these dust, you have access to one of 7 gifts. And these are all powers. One of the brothers gets one of these pieces of dust, he inhales it, and gets the ability to go back in time in the past and see what happened. So he discovers the murder of who actually killed their parents. Drama ensues.
Awesome. Great setup.
Yes.
Where did this story begin for you? Like, was there a strike of inspiration? Was this something that's been cooking, brewing on the back burner for a long time? Or
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, man. So I'm a huge nerd.
I mean, that's clear, Josh.
I know. You didn't have to say that. I do it all. I play Warhammer 40K. It's like a tabletop gaming, if you've ever heard of this. It's like you paint the models and play. And ever since I was a kid, because of this heel thing, I loved Warhammer. I loved anything that was war and stratagem related. If it was like, this sounds really silly, but like I was a huge Risk guy.
Yeah, I played way Risk as a kid.
Loved Risk. Stuff like that. Anything that's just like 3-dimensional strategy, understanding what you're trying to do, loved it, right? Played all the video games, did the whole thing. And so I always sort of had this aptitude for like not only warfare but political warfare. Like, again, the book obviously deals into the politics of how this whole thing is going to unfold, who's going to end on the throne, what's going to happen. And basically I don't want to call them comics, but I drew a lot as a child. And they're horrible, but I drew a lot. And I kept those. And there were real stories in there that I was just making as a kid that I loved. And, I'd play with my Legos, play the battles, whatever. And ultimately I was like, all right, maybe 2012, 2013 maybe, my mom showed me those drawings. And I just got re-inspired by all of that and all the things that used to light me up. And I heard this great quote of like, write for you. Don't write for the audience. Write something that you're going to want to read. And that's so true, because when we try to manipulate or please what we think other people want to see, that's how you fall into the trap of just doing what everyone's doing. But when same thing in acting, if you try to act something that you think the character should be, you're just projecting an idea and a concept. You're not living your authentic self.
It's such a fundamental, universal insight to the creative process as such.
100%. Everything.
And it's crazy how little it's followed in a way, because as soon as you get 2 people in a room talking about one pursuit or form of expression, like there's this tendency to conform.
Yes.
It's so weird. And like that's like why movies are kind of bad.
Yeah.
why so many things are the same over and over. So anyway, you got inspired by seeing your childhood drawings.
Yes. Yeah. So, and you'll like this. Got inspired by that. It was sci-fi, futuristic. Wrote 187 pages. I'm 20 at this point. Rewrote them. Took it really seriously. Was like, this is pretty good. Sent it to my friend Gannon. Shout out Gannon. He was like, bro, this is the worst thing I've ever read. I was like, oh no. And I didn't know what I didn't know at the time. Yeah. I was 20 years old, and everyone thinks they're ahead of their time. And in some cases you may be, but you're not going to jump 40 years in sage wisdom at 20. I don't care what you've been through. You've still only been on this earth for 20 years. And there are certain concepts and certain themes that I just couldn't really have at that age. And even no matter what you've been through, whatever it is, you might have one thing you're great at, but you're not going to make a master mega epic, which was one of the things that I regret, even with how good I think the book is. I shot huge. I wanted it to be an epic. And if you're doing that and you're going to have multiple storylines intersecting, you got to have so many themes that are really, really well dug and really well entrenched. Whereas if you just do a single character, one point of view, going through everything, it's like, yeah, they're going to go through different things that have to be well flashed out, but it can be a shorter book. You can have 200 pages, 100 pages, and we're just going to follow the drama of him. If you have 10 characters and you're going to spend 500 pages with them, they better be really well thought out. And so as a 20-year-old, I just didn't have the life experience to do that, if that makes sense. So I wrote the book. It sucked. He told me it was trash. I agreed. But I loved the fundamental heart behind it. And so I didn't give up. I trashed that, and I was like, you know what? Let me keep fleshing this out. And I spent 8 years turning that into a medieval fantasy drama, which is what Dust is now, keeping a lot of those same kind of king themes and elements and messages I want to say to the world, but basically making it very real. That's like what I love to do with my film. It's what I love to do with anything. If it's especially when you're talking about fantasy and, Guardians of the Galaxy, you got a talking raccoon. How do you ground a talking raccoon? It's really tough to do, but that's kind of the secret to it. So I just kind of got inspired from that, and I spent the next 8 years writing this thing, man. And that's really it.
Talk to me about the process of that. Was it, you just said that, you're a strategic minded guy.
Yes.
And so what did that look like in terms of building the world of the book and the storylines? Did you have like a chart?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Great question.
Did you kind of wrote? They say famously there's plotters and pantsers.
Oh,
have you
I
heard that expression?
Yeah. I love that. I'm a big plotter.
You're a big plotter.
Big plotter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Another way of putting that is architects versus gardeners. Like just guys that kind of like planned the whole thing out, the scaffolding, and then put the skin on the skin on the bones.
Yes.
So that's okay. So that's what you did. You kind of like, did you know where it was all going before you started writing the prose?
Yes. Only I didn't know everything. I only knew where I wanted to begin and where I wanted to end to set up the rest of the series, because I wanted it to be a 3-book series. So I knew where I was going to begin, where I was going to end. And have you ever heard of a beat board in film? Kind of traditionally. Okay, so really, honestly, I did the exact same thing, but I turned the beat board on my cork board. I have a huge cork board. I have huge whiteboards. Like your awesome guitar setup here is my whiteboards. Like I just have a bunch of them hanging up. And what I did was I broke it down into 3 central sections of the film. So really, you've got, how's the best way to put this? Really 3 main arcs, okay? And I just actually took the same index cards like you would do for film, and I just replaced scenes with chapters. 75 chapters in the book. I broke them down in 25, 25, and 25. And, it ended up I had to skewer some things here, skewer some things there. But ultimately, there's 3 sections of 25 chapters. And then I built that out the exact way. And I followed Jordan Patterson has a masterclass. And on the masterclass, there's basically like a template of like how to structure the greatest... how to mine, I should say, the greatest drama from a scene. And he asks all these really cool questions. So you'll answer those questions, and I would just put those on my index card in like a really tiny Sharpie. So like, what is the point of this? What's ensuing here? Who's changing based off of this? Whatever, right? How does the story move forward? How does this character move forward? How will we see this again later? Whatever you establish. Like, it's really, really brilliant, his masterclass. So I just took that into each index card, wrote it across, and ensured that all the storylines were, intersecting. And that was that. Kind of went to work.
Sounds simple.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And as a writer myself, I can relate to this. And I'm sad to say I don't know Jordan Patterson's masterclass, but there's many ways to skin a cat, as they say.
Excuse me, by the way, I just messed up. James Patterson.
James Patterson. Oh yeah, famous writer.
Jordan. I just watched Jordan Peterson earlier. And I was like, James Patterson.
All the J's.
All the J's. Yes.
Well, okay. So, and then talk to me how you managed to stick with it, in and around your film career, because the film in acting is extremely disruptive to the writing lifestyle.
Oh my gosh.
Because it just happens all of a sudden you have an audition, drop everything, and then God forbid you get booked, then all of a sudden you've got to go do that. So how do how often were you having to, spend time away from the book?
Oh gosh.
All the time.
Yeah. Great. That's why it took me 8 years.
Yeah.
Great question. I promised myself that I was going to make it something that was fun, because I'm very bad at that. That's one of my biggest flaws, in my opinion. They say there's a double-edged sword with work ethic, and it's like, the more you grind, the more you're going to get done, but the more you're going to sacrifice on the other edge of that sword. Sorry, I need a water after this tea. No, we're good. I was just saying I'm mumbling my words now. On the double-edged sword, it's like the more you get done, that's amazing, but obviously the more you're going to sacrifice on the other side of that. And so going back to that, it's like, if you're just going to work on something, I personally have found, to your point of the distractions, like I get pulled away. I start to get angry that I'm not finishing it. I start to have these timelines and these deadlines that I'm not meeting. And then I start to think I'm a failure and I'm losing, and why isn't it done yet? And this guy came out with his book, and you get comparative mind or whatever, right? So I just told myself I would always do a little bit every day, and I would never put anything on it. Like I studied a lot, and there was George R.R. Martin did a panel, I think with Stephen King, and Stephen King talks about how he writes X amount of hours all day. And George was like, how are you creative for that much time all day? And so there's just different ways to cut the cake. But many would argue George is a deeper, far more complex writer than Stephen King, even though Stephen King's the absolute GOAT. There's total, it depends on what you're looking at and what lens.
Turns out there's different goats.
Exactly. Yeah, it's art. Exactly. And so long story short, I just promised myself I was going to have fun. And when life pulled me away, that was going to be okay, because I wasn't in this one to forward my career. My book doesn't really, like, if I become a New York Times bestseller on the second book or something, sure, that helps me. But like as an actor and as a producer, it doesn't really help me. I just love it. I truly love that. And so I promised myself that I wasn't going to make these crazy deadlines. I wasn't going to, of course, when you get a publisher and that stuff, you know, you start getting deadlines, fine. But like, I just promised myself that when I was going to get pulled away, it's going to be okay. This was going to be my one artistic prowess that does not have a double-edged sword. Just enjoy it.
Just pure fun.
Yeah, that's
awesome. I mean, that makes me even more excited to read it when it comes out.
Thank you. Yeah.
My last question, Josh, is what is it that you're wanting to say in your book?
Oh, gosh, that's a big one. That's a big one.
Whatever you want to share.
Good question. I want to say a lot because, again, you know, it's tough. It's such a broad book. So there are definitely 3 sort of king themes. I don't want to give away too much, but I do have, I think I have a couple of answers here. One is staying true to yourself in a world that is trying to tell you not to. That is the main character's central theme. The second is the concept of right versus wrong and what is right and who defines it. The third theme is there an afterlife? And if there is, what does that look like? Those are the 3 themes that I want to talk about in the film, or in the book, excuse me. And I think you're going to dig it.
Awesome, man. I can't wait to find out the answer to those questions.
I was told one of the first things I ever heard from a film mentor, but I would just call it an art mentor, is a filmmaker or an artist should never answer questions, merely propose them and let the audience do the math.
I love that. There's a saying that an author I like a lot, Leo Tolstoy. He has this. This is a paraphrase, but a writer's perspective should be everywhere evident but nowhere visible. And I really respond to that because it's impossible to express yourself and not have a point of view.
Yes.
You are a person in time and space. But it's also, if you've ever encountered something that's bludgeoned you with the writers or filmmakers' opinion, it's just such an off-putting experience, you know. But to immerse yourself in something where you're invited to answer that question yourself, or whatever that question is that's proposed. Those are the things that, you know, not only entertain, but I feel like have resonance long after you put the book away or, turn the film off. Well, man, I'm so excited to talk to you, and I'm excited for this just pure fun chapter of your life, and also whatever is coming next in the filmmaking space. I think that it's going to be really awesome to have you in this community in all of your creative capacities.
Thank you, man.
And I'm grateful to you for spending some time with us.
Dude, thank you for having me. Grateful for being here. I know we're going to do something together soon, so that's the next step.
I can't wait.
Thanks, man.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go ahead and click here to like and subscribe. You can click right there to watch another video, or click here to watch a playlist featuring songs of the Morse Code podcast. Okay, thank you very much.